All right, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to this awesome occasion. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a special complement edition of the Bible study time. We're just going to start with a quick word of prayer. Let us pray. Thank you, Father, for such another opportunity to gather together in your presence and to recognize all of what you are doing in our lives and what you have done and what you will indeed do. We are so hopeful for that. The smiles on our faces, the gift of life, the gift of a sound mind, the gift of the love that you have shared abroad in our hearts. All of that is testament to why we are here today. We are not here because we willed it to be, but because of your grace. And so we appreciate you for this time that we are gathered together. Thank you for this opportunity again to host this type of event where we share all of that which concerns us. We delve into our lives as individuals, as families, oh God, as a church. And we just ask that you take control of this time, take control of the next 90 minutes spent in your presence. You just come and have your way. We commit all the technology, all the discussions, all the points, all the angles. We commit them all to you and we say, have your way, oh God. Come and take your place. Be established, O God, in the mighty name of Jesus. We have prayed. Amen and amen. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to kick off the program real quick, and we would invite, excuse me, we would invite Brother Dele to do a quick opening prayer. Um, Brother Dele, over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are once again welcome to the CompleMEnt, a forum of the men's ministry, the fundamentals of Mercy Chapel, where we meet every now and then to discuss and enlighten ourselves on the fundamentals concerning relationships between ourselves, our spouses, and our children. Here we share ideas, we share views, we share opinions from diverse people from different streams of life, just to enable us have a holistic understanding of what life pertains and how we as men can be leaders in spirit and in truth and lead our families and our spouses in the right direction towards the fulfillment of God's purpose for all of us. The pandemic. We all know what has happened over the last 1 year. Life has probably changed in a way that we can never go back to the way it was. How has this impacted couples? How has this impacted parents, particularly fathers? How have we been able to navigate through this unknown terrain? How has life been for everyone? Like they say, one size won't fit all. There are different strokes for different folks. What pertains in one family may differ from what pertains in another. So we're here to think and ponder on the theme, pandemic dynamics, maintaining space and harmony in a Christian home. This is a topic I believe affects everybody, single, married, in a relationship. There's something for each and every one of us to benefit from this. And I have two fine gentlemen, outstanding members of Mercy Chapel, Brother Shaliwa and Brother Coxie, who are going to do justice and lead us through this program. I have the pleasure of introducing them to you, and they'll take it from here.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Shaliwa here. Uh, Welcome to our beautiful Tuesday service, and we invite you to enjoy what we have prepared for you today. And with my co-host, my very good friend, Brother Cogsy, please proceed with this event.
Thank you, everyone. And again, welcome to this event. So we just wanted to set the stage a little bit. First of all, the compliment, as we all know, as Brodeli rightly said over there, is a great. This is a forum where the fundamentals hosts and have and brings up to the fore topical issues about different things that are going on. And today we are really talking about the pandemic dynamics. In this particular case, there's three main subsets of our program today. We're gonna tackle the issue of parenting during the pandemic. We are also going to talk about finances and how different family types and individuals have reacted or responded to the pandemic? What are some of the dynamics that were played over this year, for example? And then finally, we are going to, as a church, as a body, consider our relationships. We cannot say that our relationships have not been some way affected, in some way by this new dynamic that is the pandemic. Did you guys see what I did there? I just rhymed some way. Anyway, whatever. So I'm just trying to say that essentially we are getting into the discussion now, and we're just going to listen very quickly to a couple of discussants. So we decided to put a spin on the way we are doing this time around. We went out. The fundamentals went out to talk to a couple of people, some couples in our church, some individuals in our church, just to see what they felt, how things have gone with them. So you are going to be seeing a couple of pre-recorded videos about them responding to our questions. But what we are encouraging you to do by all means is to please have your own questions and your own impressions on the chat on Facebook, on YouTube. Type in those questions, let them come in. You can direct your questions to the discussants directly, because you're going to be hearing from them and they're all live on this program. So don't be shy to poke them in your own specific questions. If there's something you've been wanting to ask them about their relationship, this is your time. So just take that advantage and do that. And we have a lovely program tonight. So I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to start off with parenting. We're going to listen to a video or two, and then we're going to pause and have a quick discussion, and then we continue that way. Is that all right? Okay. So let's go on with it. In this, so Broshalis, anything about the quick, anything about parenting you want to give them a little taste of what they're about to see and listen to?
Well, to our audience, we have a vibrant young couple uh, with dynamic, beautiful children. With the expectation is set with the demographic of our church, whereby we have very young couples with younger children. So this really should appeal to the broader audience of the church. So having said that, can I go ahead and introduce our very first couple?
Yes, you can go ahead and do that.
Yes, we'll be playing pre-recorded questions with Sister Michelle and Brother Dio Adebusoye.
All right, here we go.
Yes. Well, he's used to a particular routine of going to school in the morning and all that. But ever since this COVID thing, started, he couldn't do that. He couldn't go to school, and that has got some, ripple effect on, the ability to potty train. Because we're looking forward for him to be well potty trained. So, he couldn't just do that.
Of all the things. So, besides the fact that he's not completely potty trained, he's only 3. So, besides that, it has affected him, like my husband mentioned, because, his routine, when he was in school, there was a different type of structure that they created for him. Like, he'd wake up, carry his bag, he'll eat pancakes, play with his friends, have nap time, at grandma's house, he will, eat fufu or something like that, eat amala or something like that. So, he's still he's just kind of confused, so to speak, as to what is he really supposed to be eating for breakfast or not sometimes, right? But with the younger one, it has actually helped him because it has allowed for him to spend more time with his bigger brother, right? So he's able to kind of pick up words faster. They have a really good relationship, so they communicate very well. And, they've just kind of created more of a bond that probably would not have been there had he had been in daycare. So, there's some goods and some bads. So, I think for us, the biggest difference that we've noticed also is, more screen time. right? Because, as opposed when you're in school, your tablets are gone, no, toys and things of that sort. It's more of a structure education time. Whereas, when you're at home with mom or grandma, there it tends to allow for you to kind of just do your own thing. And really the most important thing for them is for them to eat and sleep when they're with grandma, and as long as they're safe. So we find that, those are the kind of things that we've seen that it's affected them negatively, so to speak. But all in all, they're doing well.
So I would say it's positive and negative.
Yeah.
All right, so we're pausing it there because before we get into question 2, we wanted to digest a few things of what you guys have heard. Oh gosh, that was a classic video. Michelle, your reaction, and then right after that, did you guys notice Brother Dio started sweating? He was even dabbing his face, and I was like, "This man is in hot soup. He has bought the job live." Anyway, so essentially, those of you with young children, how have you coped? You see, that is one dynamic in one house. Essentially, how did they adjust to that, managing young children? We know that has been the issues. Those of you with young children in the chat, just type it in, and just let us know if you have similar types of experience. But on the other hand, we're just going to roll on with the next question, so that we can just keep taking on the impressions from everybody. So we're going to move on to another couple now. The Wokoyes are here on the line, Brian Osike and Sister Da. We pose this specific question to them, and we're going to hear from them what they need to say, and then we're going to come back to the Adebusoyes. All right? Okay, let's go.
I think it was mostly with Amara. Amara is my baby. She loves the outdoors. She loves hanging out with friends. She would just be like, I'm so sad and gloomy. And, of course, we had to go through what's the problem? And it's like, I've not seen anyone yet, So we try to explain to them that they staying home, especially when there was that option of if they could go back to school. It's like daddy and mommy making this decision for you to stay home is because we want to keep you safe. And she could not quite understand, why safe was more important than hanging out. But that's something we had to keep explaining to her. So yes, I would say in that specific instance, since you were asking for a specific instance, that we had to, as parents, carry them along, especially the younger one that didn't quite understand exactly what was going on, carry her along, as well as still be loving parents, because for them the love line can easily be crossed. Like, if you don't want me to do what I want, you hate me, so being able to balance that out, I would say. And then once we start asking ourselves, okay, what can we do to make it worth their while? And so again, we came up with, we had to invest in games.
Yes.
Hannah was like, are we even going to use these games afterwards? But we had to invest in some kind of games. And we were also open to, tell us what you want to see. What do you want to do? And it was really, really helpful for me. I'm not as tech savvy. So it was great for them to try to explain, okay, mommy, you do this, or you play this. And I got to play video games that I'm not a fan of. But, so we tried in different ways to accommodate them, so that they also would have fun and not think about what they are missing.
In addition to what my wife has said, I think one of the bedrocks of so many constraints that we didn't see it is that we put in a lot of timeline to everything we do. So it's not like they wake up in the morning anytime they want. No. There's a time they wake up, there's a time that we all pray. Actually, in the morning, for people like us, that was adding a lot of weight. We put exercise time. We look at their own time too. They normally have break between 12 and 1:30. So we work both breakfast time, lunch time, TV time. And the good thing, I don't know how to play PS4. I also learned how to play video games.
Right. that was fun.
Yeah, that was good.
Right. That was an interesting one too from the Uwokoyes. I like the combination there. That shows vibrant colors and everything else. all of us experienced some level of readjustment with younger children. And some of the questions we see on our YouTube chart, it says, someone needs to come get my kids. I can't deal. That is a major situation because you're holding with young children that are so energetic and need to be kept going. How would you, how did you manage to do that successfully, as we can say?
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually another comment here. If I just jump into it, it says, uh, I'm fortunate to have a teenager. It wasn't as bad, but I still had to deal with, had to deal with being tired of being indoors for over a year. It takes a toll on the mind, and we had to find other ways to adjust. I think the angle that this particular commentator is saying is that it does take a toll on the mind. There is a mental space and mental health. And if you don't mind, I want to do a little plug in now for the women's program, Woman to Woman, who is going to explore some of these mental space issues that the pandemic has had a toll on us. And a shout out to my own wife, who's going to be leading that. Just trying to get some brownie points over here. But on the other hand, the mental space indeed is something that the pandemic has had a toll on. And I know many companies out there are trying to deal with that issue day to day. So it is a real thing. So guys, everybody join the program on near Mother's Day. I can't remember the exact date now, but you know what it is. And join that. So there's a mental issues here. But just to know something that the Konano CK said, they had to make, the Konano CK did say something. They had to make the structures present. We're not taking things for granted. Or because you're at home, you wake up anytime. Okay, school starts at 9 o'clock, doesn't mean you wake up at 8:55. There is still a schedule, there's still a structure. Students, when they go to school, there's a structure. So that's something that I'm taking away from that. And sister, so that said something here that bring the children into the communication. Like you can't assume that because they are very young or maybe they don't get it. You have to be part of it because there's a little thin line between this is why we're not letting you do this and as against you don't love me anymore. So it's a real issue. So I think I think that's something that we should bring up and keep talking about. Now there's a third question that we're going to go into now, and I'm trying to be cognizant of the time here. But before we do that, there has anybody else experienced this guilt, like for example, I'm at home all the time working from home, and I'm going to pose this question straight up just before we have them come in, because I know the Anosi case didn't get a chance to address this one, but we would come back. The Adebusoye's did. So I'm going to ask the Wokoyes actually about this. Is there any time you felt like, hey, I'm at home, but I don't think I'm spending as much time as I could with the kids because, when they were in school, you didn't feel that guilt because you were at home, you're at work, they were in school. That's their school time, right? But then now they're both at home together, and you might find yourself in your work zone for 4 or 5 hours on end, and you don't really see them. Do you feel a little guilty that maybe I should spend more time? This was my opportunity to spend more time, and I'm not. It's funny dynamic, but how do you feel about that?
So I guess I'll take a stab at it. I felt a lot guilty, and my way of getting out of things is spending. So I just offer.
It will.
Just offer. Do you want ice cream? Do you want this? I try to pacify a lot because I'm just like, I know I feel bad. So I'm just like, let's just fix the issue and make you feel better, make you feel okay. Oga.
Well, that's true. The the whole thing just boils down that we made adjustments that we found a way to pacify them. Sometimes we just have to tell them, okay, you know what, just get into the car, everybody put on your max, and then we drive down to DC and you know just walk around DC. So for somebody like myself, that don't usually be at home most of the time, it was also a bonding time with them. So despite the COVID season, at least we try to make our time once or twice in a week. Everybody put on the necessary things that we need to do, and we just drive down to different places and just hang out and then come back.
That's actually a good thing, and and I want to give a shout out to you, like Sada, like you said, just fix the problem. If I'm feeling guilty, I just fix the problem. All right, let's listen to what the Adebuse had to say about this, and please, like I said, if you guys have any questions to any of the discussants, feel free to shoot them our way, and we're just gonna go right now to finish up this particular.
I feel very guilty about it. I don't even know. Like I don't know if I should blame him because of the situation that we're in, or if I should blame myself because he probably is emulating me, like always on my phone. Like I struggle with it a lot. So, I'm like, okay, we take away his iPad, but then he's gonna watch TV, or like it's just you just can't win. It's a battle that we're still trying to figure out. But I mean, at the end of the day, honestly, like they'll be fine. You know what I mean? They'll be fine.
If I may jump into that quickly.
Yes, please.
Sister Michelle was just addressing the situation whereby you have screen time or the use of multimedia gadgets and all that for the children. A lot of people, a lot of parents in this period have actually given up, giving the children more time. In a way, it can be good. In a way, it can be positive. But in another way, you feel alienated from the child. I know some of us in the audience here would have a thing to say about that. So please ask your questions about children and screen time on gadgets and everything. How does it affect your household?
Yeah, Brashalis, I think I'm going to take a cue from there and just look a little bit about some of the questions we've had here on the chat. Someone has definitely said yes initially, and this is a parent of a teenager. I'm at my desk working longer than usual, and she's in her room in class, and afterwards we go to our separate rooms. But then my daughter called me out on it and said, "Hey, we can't be strangers here," or something like that. Called her out on it, and we fixed it. And then they now, I'm sure if I ask the question, how well do you structure time to spend together, we can get to that. And then another respondent also on YouTube did say, I have younger kids, I'm in class with them throughout the day. I'm the fifth grader, I'm the kindergartner, I need the break. So no guilty feeling here. Like Sister Michelle said, they will be fine. Whoever this person is, I just need to come give you a big hug. Because sometimes I'm like, no, Lord help me. Second grader, teacher, pre-K, whatever. Lord help me. Anyway, please keep the comments coming in. We're going to try and transition away from this parenting bit now a little bit to the finances side, and I'd like to talk about this real well. We are going to be introduced to another couple at this time who have joined our set of couples, the Babanis. So along the line, as we get the videos going, we're going to be introduced to them. The Babanis got married during the pandemic, so their situation is particularly unique, and we couldn't help but have them be part of this the discussion. So look out for them. But we're going to start off again with the Adebusoyes, and this particular question has to do with: has the pandemic made you spend more or save more? And not just the new married couples. We're also going to hear from Sister Bimpe, who isn't married, but she also got cash issues to think about and deal with, and I'm actually particularly impressed about the way she tackled some of these questions. So let's look forward to it. So right now, Broshalis, any other comments coming so far?
Right now, nothing different from that. It's just a few things here. The chemistry between the couples is awesome. Makes watching them talk about their pandemic experience educative and worth watching. That's somebody
Oh,
giving a shout out to our panelists, the videos and everything, the respondents. The way you've presented yourself today is just beautiful. But moving on quickly to the finances, because we have quite a few things to catch up on, and we want to give our audience things to ask as well. So let's go to the next question quickly.
all right. So the first question, here you go.
Well, I would say it's kind of both ways, but we tend to save more during the pandemic. So I would say, well, we built. I mean, able to, because think about it, we're not having to commute to work. We're not having to commute to work. You know, you have some savings on transportation. The only thing is, we stay home a lot, so you have to pay, the energy bills is up.
Yeah.
What else?
I think also one thing that we were able to recognize, and I'm grateful for my husband for this, was that when we realized that there was an excess in funds because of not spending for transportation or lunches or the type of spendings that you have when you're commuting, we were able to kind of repurpose those funds. We recognized that a time like the pandemic would not happen again, right? We needed to make sure that we took advantage of this time. And the one thing that he was so adamant about was development during this time frame, or during the beginning of the time frame. He was like, we have to develop ourselves, because think about it. People are at home, they have more time to read, they have more time to study, they have more time to do the things that they normally would not be able to do. And so you even see universities are giving free classes and things of that sort. So it made us realize that, people were going to come out of this pandemic better than they came in, right? Yeah. So, if we weren't where we were, or if we weren't where we wanted to be, this was the time for us to hone in on that. So that extra money that we were saving from gas or from lunches or from just miscellaneous expenses from commuting, we used that to develop ourselves. So, not only did we do the development part, but we also were able to kind of use that, save the money to be able to do other things that we'd want to do.
Let me take a stab at it. I think the first electric bill, when it came in, Anna was like, we need to really digest this thing, because it's never been this high. I mean, the light is being run every time, so I'm constantly trying to check, is the bathroom light on, so we had to just move finances around in that regard. But it was helpful because we weren't doing a lot of, we started doing a lot of going out to go, just because the kids just wanted somewhere to go. So we just said, oh, let's go and pick up dinner. Let's go and pick. So I said we started spending a little bit more for eating out, just to give them something, that we had to also watch and say, okay, because we're now spending here, I had to cut down on my designer things and, be like, okay, this new whatever is out, and I'm looking at it on the computer. I'm like, I can't have you right now. I had to make those personal decisions. But overall, I think we were just able to talk about it, and I think that's why it's really important. Some people don't believe in having, their accounts together, but for us, we have our accounts together. So it's like, babe, you saw what came in, Abby, you saw what is going out. So you don't need a prophet to tell you slow down, So it was very helpful for us to be able to manage our finances.
Well, she said it all. I just think the whole key to the right from start and up till now is just all about communication. There are places that you used to spend more, you cut down on it. The utility bills went up, so you have to find a way to balance out and all the stuff. So we really communicated, discussed about it, and then we found a level ground in everything that we did. And God really granted us wisdom to help us navigate the whole situation.
All right. All right. Rochelle, let's take it away. I guess a couple of things have come up on the chat. Yeah.
That's right. This is quite exciting to see the sync between these two young couples, the Wokoyes and the Adebusoye's. The way they've been able to transition from one expense to move to a different kind of expense and do it effortlessly. Although I see that Brother Dyer spent a lot more time in the kitchen than most of us did. But we are happy with that. We all did. We were all comfort eating and all that. And so many different things happened to us that we didn't anticipate. In the chat here, we have people saying that the utility bills went off the roof. That was true. A lot of us had to keep the lights on the TVs and everybody entertained in the house. And also we were cooking constantly, making tea and coffee every minute, walking. The exercise was to walk from the living room to the kitchen, actually, and back to the desk. But having said that,
Yeah.
in the audience, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead and ask the question, because someone says, listen, how do
Well,
you make the children turn off the light? Because how do you just say, I'm constantly chasing after these kids. I really want to meet this particular person talking. Again, Bilola one, I have to call you out because, you're just lighting this up for us. I'm constantly chasing after these kids turning off the light. Does anyone have younger kids? How do you make them turn off the lights? I have a few strategies here, but maybe you can come in if anybody has any of the who has younger kids. The work is, do you have that problem at all? Because you were saying you're always checking one light or the other. I don't think you're the one leaving it on, Sister Ada. So who is leaving it on, and why are you not chasing them to turn it off?
For peace to reign, I turn it off myself. And think about it this way. That's a way to get your exercise in. So whoever was asking the question or whatever, just think about it that way. Get up, go turn it off. When the bills show up, you're the one that's going to have to deal with it. So, I talk about it. I say, who left the light on? You make like an angry face so they know that, oh, mommy's mad. But I try to go constantly check. And so that way it's also in their memory, because I turn it off and then I, say some things about it, show anger, so that hopefully it's in their remembrance.
I can imagine you showing anger with your smiley face, but Brian Osiki has a different impression.
Oh no, he shows real anger.
Well, because after showing anger, for some people that have teenagers and also the younger ones, they started on their experimental cooking ways.
That's true.
The younger ones started doing a lot of drinks in the house. So even though you are turning off the light, there's another way. The cooking competition. The cooking competition was there. The drink competition was there.
That's true.
But at a point, you look at it this way, they are always in the house.
Yeah.
No matter the way you scream and you tell them, okay, don't cook more, don't bake more, don't do this, but they are trying to make themselves happy. One, they're trying to get themselves fully occupied.
See.
So you just have to deal with the situation.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. Well, we're gonna keep this moving. There is a unique perspective from another couple, and I want us to hear that real quick. So let's just go back and listen to what the Babanis have to say about this.
And then we started planning a wedding, and weddings are always a huge expense, but when the world is going through a pandemic and so many people are being laid off their jobs and the world is like almost in financial turmoil, you feel like very cautious to spend an extra dollar, right? You just think like, I don't know. So for me, I'm very fiscally conservative, and my husband, he doesn't spend a lot, but he's not as fiscally conservative, would you say? So he almost was not worried about it, and I was way more conscious about it. So I think that was a big thing. Just for me, it really heightened the need for even the security, right? Making sure that you provide yourself with some kind of security, right? And so that was heightened in my mind, and it is heightened in my mind currently because the pandemic is still here, and I feel like things are unstable.
So there was a period of expense, great expense, which is the wedding. And then there was a period of coming together and, combining finances, right? So there is that transition from being single to, combining finances. And then there was the period of being together in the COVID era. So those were different phases. And what I can say is, of course, after a wedding with a major expense like that, there will be a recovery period, right? And so there was that too. There was a recovery period. And then there was a realization during the COVID era that about how life can change very drastically. What I mean specifically by that is, I will be a little personal here. I know my dad caught COVID during the COVID era, so you could be thinking anything can happen, right? And her brother also got COVID, and he was admitted into the hospital. By the grace of God, both of them are fine right now. But you'll be thinking that anything can happen. So because of those things, we had to seriously think about, we are still very young, we are both below 40. We have to start thinking about life insurance and what happens if something happens, something crazy happens, seriously. And we both are very involved in business and things like that. So we have to start thinking of, even as young as we are, succession plan. If something happened to me, with the business continue? Something to happen to her, with the business continue? How do you sell this business? Is it ready to be sold? You understand what I'm saying? Things like that, we were real things that were tackled during COVID.
And we met with, speaking of that, I think that heightened it for us was not only about our finances, but that if somebody passed, us having to be responsible for somebody else, right? Like burial costs for other people, who do those people take care of, right? And what is their plan? And so we sat down with somebody for like wealth management after just a couple months ago, just to talk about those things. So yeah, we sat with somebody to discuss it, because we felt like, you always think, okay, you understand finances and you understand your finances, but I think it heightened for us to talk about, if he passed, how would we transition his business? If I passed, how would we transition my business? Could it continue, right? So it was interesting. It is interesting.
Awesome response there, Brother Deji and Sister Natalie. I know Brother Deji quite well, and Sister Natalie recently. I know Brother Deji can be very scientific with his processes and everything else. So I get you on the planning and the thoroughness of that. And I know because you're a young, dynamic couple, it's a little bit easy to talk about, because you can work with each other effortlessly. But Sister Michelle, someone has asked that you want to teach them how you were able to save. I think the finances, especially in this pandemic era, was something that we might have to discuss in a different program, because it's been ups and downs for different people. Some people were able to save some money. Some people were spending more money, but Sister Michelle here found another strategy with 2 young kids. And I'm sure you can give us a little insight on how you do that.
So so can you ask the question more
clearly? So
what
in what areas, or what other outgoings were you able to save money from, or how do I say, keep a little bit on the side? Because we know your utilities was going up, the kids you were eating more and everything else. Yes, you were not driving, but every other thing was going out. So what were the cuts you made to just give yourself a little bit of a better balance sheet at the end of the day?
Well, I definitely was not buying as many clothing as I had been prior to the pandemic, right? I mean, even just thinking about church, right? You know, with the type of work that I do in church, I always had an excuse to buy. Not that I needed to, but I had to give myself an excuse. Oh, today we have to wear purple. Let me go find a purple skirt. I mean, I've been doing the same thing for 15 years. I'm sure I have a purple shirt somewhere in the house, but because, you know, we women want to wear something new, you know, you find an excuse to spend. So those kind of things got cut. You know, like I mentioned earlier, we honed in on development and, you know, just tried to, you know, transition out of, you know, the type of work that I was doing before and move into something else just to kind of increase income, and then think about, you know, still spending within the means of where I was spending before, right? So not, you know, increasing my spending because, you know, there was a transition, but instead staying within the means that I had before and just saving the excess.
Yeah, very right, Sister Michelle. Most of us did not realize how much we were spending on a day-to-day, moving up and down, you know, on things that were not really essential to us. But having said that, though, many of us will still have to buy new clothes because we've added a few pounds that we might struggle to wear what we had before. But I think we'll deal with that when we get to that situation. Brother
Yes.
Coxey, go ahead.
Yeah, I see, Rochelle, that's amazing. So, first of all, guys, I'm cracking up here. I'm just reading some of the comments. So, still on the chasing about the lights. Let's just address some of them that have come up on the chat real quick. Someone says, I in my house we choose which light to turn on. I like that word. We choose which one not to turn on. So there's probably a cage on the light switch. You know, it's like you can't turn this one on. If you turn it, it will shock you. Another person said, even my 20-year-old still struggles to turn off the lights. When they live rent free, they don't understand the anger you show. I think it's very simple. The 20-year-old maybe needs his apartment, and then he would remember to turn off the lights when the bills come. And then someone says, when a person says, listen, they've turned it into fun. You know, you chase everybody, you state bills will come out of the common purse. After that, you get some sort of attention. People are realizing, hey, this is going to come out of my pockets, you know, and it's all fun. I think that's a very great one here. Um, uh, I think the question there to Mrs. Michelle about how you manage the magic formula, how you manage to save funds. I think you've shared some of that. So we're just gonna move on there. Someone else said all of the on his side of the street, all expenses went up. Utilities, grocery, all expenses went up. So he doesn't understand when people are talking about savings. Well, I feel you, sir. I feel you. I feel you. Okay, so some people actually did say, hey, there was no unnecessary spending, no eating out, no online shopping. The bills increased because we're now 24/7 at home, but you know, it balanced out so much so that there was more on the saving side. And I think some other people share your view there, and that's great. The other thing here was someone did really say, and I think this is Pastor Lou, we had to redefine what's essential. And we're going to get to that because I think some of the responses later on, people had to rethink, you know, this is what's really essential. I realized I don't really need all that money to spend, you know, and then back again to me, the winner from the night, B. Lola, won. Oh, yes, groceries. Oh, Jesus. You never know how much you dislike family until you are forced to live together 24/7. In and out of the fridge, get on my nerves constantly. Maybe now you've moved to buying an SUV because of your shopping level has increased. I feel you. I feel you. But before we move on, I'm just gonna get to hear a little bit. Back to the Babanese, they did talk about their experience, but then there's something else they said. What financial decision did the pandemic lead them to doing? Like the pandemic forced a few things to happen, and I think if we explore what financial decision that they were led to doing, we will learn something from that. Over to you guys.
Yeah, let my wife go.
So an interesting fact is we have very different financial ideologies, right? So me and we've known from the start, we have very different financial ideologies. He is a person that is more like, I do business, I keep streams of cash flow, and that's all that's necessary. Like, as long as I keep these streams of cash flow, it'll be fine. And I'm more a securities person, which he feels it's false security, and it may be, but I'm more like a security type of person. Like, I want this money as an emergency fund in the bank, no matter what. Like, I need it in there. I need it in there. And he's just like, no, like, you're not making good use of your money. It's just sitting there. And I'm like, yeah, well, just in case. But what's interesting is when COVID was hitting, he was like, after we got married and then these things are happening, he said, I think we need to have a family emergency fund. And I said, a family emergency fund? And he's like, yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a family emergency fund. But prior to marriage, he always said, you can have your like a little emergency fund, but I don't think it's necessary. So I think COVID kind of heightened that in his mind and was like, maybe my wife has a little bit of, this makes a little sense and we should have that. So that happened.
Yeah, that's real. That's very real. I'm the type of person that as long as I'm continuously increasing streams of income and increasing cash flow, that's my safety. You understand? As long as there's cash flow, because the way I look at it is, no matter how much you have in the bank, if there's no cash flow, you have a life limit to that. So I see it as it's false. You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, sudden expenses can just arise, especially during this COVID time, that you absolutely did not plan for. And it can just come up and things like that. In fact, we had a friend that was in our wedding that died at our age, in our age group. Yeah. And it was not expected at all. So when things like that happen, you see that you should have, especially right now, you should have things that plans for in case it is at the extreme and at the non-extreme end too. Yeah.
Has in a very interesting way. So thankfully my income did not, I didn't lose my stream of income, my main stream of income, but I think what it did for me was help me to think more futuristically and think more not just of myself, but like what I wanted to be my legacy and actually start early. So as a young lady, it sometimes when you're earning, it just looks like, oh, it's just for you. There's really nothing, or even when you're doing something for the future, it looks like you're just helping out what you really is not your priority. But when COVID struck, it got me thinking about what really matters. And, if I had to leave, what I wanted to be remembered for. So I started putting my money where my mouth was, so to say. Oh, I think I was able to save more. I had more tangible things that I could say my money went to. And they were investments, there are things that are speaking for me. I was able to set some building blocks versus previously before the pandemic, I think I could be very giving as well. But I began to see myself as a steward, not just that I was just doling out, but that I also needed to leave something that would generate wealth. So it helped me to see things that way. And even in my giving, I was more intentional about it. I wanted to know what the outcome was, and I wanted it to be something that was sustainable. Sometimes even in giving, you can invest in your giving. So that got me thinking about more creative ways in giving. So I wasn't just doling out money anymore. I became more conscious. And I spent less as well on clothes and all of those things that, let me hide under the umbrella of a lady that we spend on. So that got me thinking about what was really important.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. I must give a big shout out to the Messistic audience. We have probably learned a lot from our pastors and all the various good programs we've had. In this pandemic, it seems that many of us have been able to refocus and rechannel our priorities to the things that are mattered most. Brother Deji here and Sister Natalie talked about being able to make better financial plans better business and legacy plans, even things like life insurance, and having um, a little money aside, emergency fund, as Sister Natalie called it, to help you keep things afresh. Sister Bingpe here also talks about, being able to rethink how priorities, financial planning, are giving, and so many other things. It's quite nice to hear that many of us took advantage of this pandemic to become more astute with our finances. We have quite a few things to talk about. In the chat room as well, we see a few members of our auditorium here. I've been able to pay off some debts, credit cards, small things here and there that you acquire along the line. But sitting at home probably helped them to see that and address it efficiently. Someone did very well and paid all the debts except the student loan. Don't worry, Joe Biden is going to work on the student loan for you, so you're in good shape. Don't worry about that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had to laugh aloud with that. Yes, we're waiting for Uncle Sam to do his thing. So let's pay off all the debt first before the student's loan. Remember, the student's loan debt has the lowest type of interest. It's the lowest type interest-bearing loan. So get the credit card loans out of there first, and then any others you have, those are high interest-bearing. I wanted to raise a point here, which was a respondent did say, a comment did say that did Babani's response about investments, about financial planning, that's an area a lot of couples back away from. But I want you guys to realize this, that one of the reasons why they had to do that at this time, less than a year into their marriage, is because of the pandemic. The pandemic brought that issue up from number 24 on their list of priorities all the way up to numbers 1 to 3. And I think this is the time for a lot of us to think about that. If something happens to you, if something happens to your spouse, God forbid, I'll do all those, cast and bind, but what's the plan in place? But we need to make that a real possibility. So kudos to you for bringing that point up, totally unsolicited, but I think that's a great thing that a lot of us needs to dive into. Very quickly, we want to shift focus a little bit into question 2. And the question more had to do with us having the privilege of 50-20 vision, not just accuracy, but futuristic ability. So the question was more about what if you had the privilege of foresight, what one financial decision would you have made? I think a lot of people are thinking, oh gosh, if I knew, I would have invested in Zoom. Oh, if I knew, I would have bought stocks in FaceTime or something like that, but whatever, but we're going to just listen a bit to some of these responses. But I want to appreciate everybody on the chat. Please keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming in. It's interesting to read from you and your perspectives. We are learning from you as well. So let's go back to our let's go back to the panel, to the discussants, and hear what the Adebusoyes have to say about foresight.
Financial decision. Probably invest in stocks more. Yeah, because some people that they made a lot of money. Like during the pandemic, like stock prices were so low, so you can easily buy some more stocks, and then sell when things resume back to normal.
Also, I think we probably would have been more. I think we probably would have probably purchased our house then, because the housing market actually was lower right in January 2020, and we were kind of like, we'll wait, and then slowly it just started creeping up, and we're like, hold up, what's going on? So, I think if we had a better foresight and we knew that, okay, the housing market was actually going to increase, then we probably would have made that purchase at that time, and then continued with everything else that we were doing.
Well, I think once there's life, there still is not missed, right? Bible says that a sleeping dog is better than a dead lion. But in the sense of investments, yes, I think there was that gap. There was that time, actually when COVID was when it first hit, rather, there were a lot of speculations about a downward, what's that thing now, when inflation, when there's a depression,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So there was a lot of people were holding on to their money and didn't let go of it. But one thing I can say is that for those who were bold, who are taking those initiatives even before COVID, they benefited from it, right? Because they had sown their seed in time. And so when COVID was striking, I feel like a lot of people doubled their investments a lot, and so people made a lot of money from shares and bonds and all of those things. While those who were not brave, their investment stayed the same. It was just typical story of the talents, right? So I think that was one lesson as well for me, and just being intentional in my investment early on, because the latecomers don't get as much, right? So those who were bold and who were able to take informed risk, like healthy risk, were able to get a lot from it early on. So I definitely see that as a plus for people in COVID. And then in housing as well, I know people who wanted to buy houses, and some were like holding on, waiting for the market to crash more. And the funny thing is, it didn't. I feel like those who bought the houses then, really, I know I helped a friend, some people here and there, and it was a good buy. So I think being intentional, planning ahead for things like that, and just taking that bold step when.
Wow, that's an incredible question. It's a very incredible question, because the reality for us was that COVID was a time of opportunity for us. Or like a lot of businesses during COVID were adversely affected. But the area in which I am in, IT, blossomed significantly. Like it blossomed. There was more opportunity because people could work from home, and basically that created more opportunity. Like I could work in Alaska, in a company in Alaska, and just be here, and I could work in a company anywhere in the world. Literally, I could work in. So it created more opportunity in the IT sector. And for business, we like real estate and things around real estate. And again, in that area, people wanted to repair their houses more, people wanted to build more, people wanted to renovate more. So opportunity was increased. If I knew that something like this was going to happen prior, like last year, maybe we would have planned more to take advantage of it early.
Yeah.
Early. Instead of, going in, seeing all this opportunity and trying to catch up,
Yeah, I definitely.
While she does travel, and that was really affected, so she might need to plan more to be able to adjust to the fact that travel really, really went down. And although I think she's completely adjusted now, but that's something that she could have planned better.
Yeah. I think that we definitely, by the grace of God, capitalized where possible during COVID financially. But I think that if we would have known a little more, I agree with my husband in that I think we would have planned to capitalize early, right? As he said, I have a business, it's a travel business. And there was so many things planned for that business last year, and a lot of them got delayed because of COVID, and of course it's a pandemic and we couldn't really travel. And so maybe I would have maybe capitalized on a couple other opportunities if I knew that would have been coming. But I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? It's you do what you can with what you have at that moment, right? If everybody knew COVID was coming, maybe the opportunities that we were able to capitalize on wouldn't have been available, or everybody would have been capitalizing on those, right? So I think we did what we can, and it's been okay.
Yeah, it's been.
That's a good response there, Sister Natalie. If everybody knew it was going to come out this way, everybody would have been prepared for it, and taking advantage of whatever was out there. What I would like to add is never too late to make money. So many things are still going to happen moving forward. The whole world went down, so the whole world has to go up. So if you have your ideas, plug them into the system, it would surely come out really good for you in a few years, because everything has to be brought back to normal, so to speak. And also, we see the transition from how we, from say the African diaspora, have always lived. We've always believed in going to work or something, but we've seen the difference between sitting at home and being able to be productive. Those are things that was imposed. Many people found it hard to sit at home to work. They felt they had to go out every day to earn a living. The opportunities just blew open, and as we see. Also, we also see the differences what social media can make. A lot of us here have talked about the stock markets and all that. We don't need to be a genius now. Just be on a good social media platform, and you know what's trending and what's not. And like I said, a few hundreds here and there might make a difference to your baseline eventually. But it was a good thing to talk about this. It was a good thing to hear about your different perspectives, the vibrant, energetic ideas you have, and I'm sure moving forward you produce more better decisions with what you're doing. Looking in the chat here, trying to see if we have anything that's different. Nothing exciting, so we're going to move to question 3. Brother Coxie, anything to add to it?
Not really. I just think that there was a question that had to do with debts and how your experience, all of you discussants, if you're able to pay off a few debts and how it feels to have lower debts. But I know we are running out of time, so I want us to tackle question 3 first, and then if there's any response any of you has, we'll have a minute after that to take it up. All right. The question is that came on the chat is, does any one of you want to share your experience on how you were able to maybe use this opportunity to pay off one debt or the other, and how does that feel? So we're going to take that question. Any one of you get ready to answer it, but let's just look at question 3 now that we pose while you're getting that ready.
Well, it's just to be ready and keep saving the money, basically. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, what he's saying, exactly, right? So I think one thing that the pandemic allowed us to do was just kind of rethink everything that we were doing and just consider our spending, and I think it made us a little bit more conscious, right? So I think now, we're a little bit in a better place, so we're a little bit more comfortable to be able to do the things that we want to do. So I mean, with the economy opening back up, we're like, let's go. Let's open up with the economy. I feel like we've gotten an opportunity to kind of like pull back and reset, and then by God's grace, we'll take off.
Okay, so I was thinking about the things I am thinking of for myself. I think even when there's a lot of chaos and all that, there's still always that gap to be filled, and people who took that made a lot of money from it. Like people who went into creating something, say mask or whether it was toilet paper, thinking ahead, like what will people need in this situation, and they made home with a lot of money. So even as we're about to open, like what will people need to open? If we could think about that gap and what the need will be, and then as young adults, we're already very creative in everything that we do, just putting our energies into something like that or an investment like that. It could be something minuscule, very small, but I think it will make a lot of impact because the whole world is at that, we are all in the same phase. So by the time you think of turnover, even if it's something you're selling for 50 cents, by the time you think of turnover, you make a great deal from it. So if we can just think futuristically, like not be moved by all the chaos and all the adrenaline, and just settle down and think about how can I help people? What do people need right now? I think the fact that was COVID shocked all of us. We thought there would be a downward, and things grew. So I feel like people are more resilient than we thought we were. So I definitely think things are going to grow. The thing is, I feel like there's a new sector that is going to grow. I don't know what that is going to be, but things are shifting. The world, there's a shift going on. So whether it was oil that was the focus before, something else is taking precedence. Maybe that's technology or something. There's going to be a shift there. So that's clear.
All right, amazing, amazing. Sister Bimpe there, futuristic. She's very hopeful. A lot of us are hopeful, and we agree with you. But I just wanted to note the piece she talks about, Sister Bimpe, about legacy planning. What do I want to leave behind? So, general, all in all, in the finances space, let's be futuristic. Let's take advantage of the opportunity that Debusoys are gearing ready to jump on real quick. They have all their savings in their hand. They'll just jump on and invest in things and make all the money and then pay off our building pledges all together. Anyway, I'm just saying that we're going to move a little bit quickly. There's a question on the chat that has to do with the relationships, and I don't know who the person that is asking this question is pretty much thinking really thinking whether they knew the next move. So we're going to move to that, and we're going to take that question in the chat as part of that session. Essentially, that has to do with relationships and all of that. So we're going to just move down here. Some people have said real quick on the chat, investing in stocks happened during the pandemic. People have moved to permanent remote locations, because they realized, listen, I can work from anywhere now. I mean, I just buy my house over in, I don't want to say any particular, in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. I was gonna say one word here, but nobody. Pennsylvania or in Delaware, and work from there. And someone says it's actually time to really plan your estate. Estate planning is an important piece. So we're going to dive straight into relationships. And the Bible says that in marriage, two shall become one flesh. Now, this pandemic has forced us to stay home and in each other's faces. We want to explore, should really people really be taking space and time out? Can they be scheduling time out right now from seeing each other at this point? So we're just going to take that piece right away and explore some of those pieces because we think it's important as well. So just stay tuned and we're going to go right there.
I want to know if he's tired of me.
Well, I'll say, I mean, there should be a bit of a space, because, over the course of the months, I mean, while working together, we work in the same space, by the way, There are some times where, she'll be too loud on phone, she'll be on a meeting, and I'll be doing my own thing. So I'll signal to her, oh, okay, can you put on your headphone or something so that you don't interrupt my own meeting. So I think that
Sorry guys, I'm so sorry, but I just have to pause there, man. Michelle, your face is priceless. Daya is in trouble. Anyway, the question is, I like you guys to pay close attention to Brother Dayo's response and Sister Michelle's response after that. It's just priceless. Let's go on.
there is need for that, to be honest. I mean, and there are other things, like you might be talking to your colleague at work, talking about the job or whatever, whatever the thing is, I think there should be a little bit of space,
Well, I mean, now that I know that my husband doesn't enjoy my company, he's my office mate, right? So, and I tell everyone at work, they know that he's my office mate. So if they hear him, I'm like, oh, that's my office mate. And they'll be like, who? I'm like, that's my husband. And of course they understand. But truly, I genuinely enjoy his company, right? So, when we're, thinking about, don't blush, thinking about when we before the pandemic, we would drop each other off at the train station, and then we would just continue our day. And then by the time he would get to work, then I would call him, or if he hadn't heard from me, then he would call me and check on me to see if I've eaten or something like that, So, we constantly were in communication throughout the day when we were working. And I think, in the beginning of the pandemic, it was a bit tougher because we were doing everything plus work plus kids, right? This is before grandma came into the picture. But I think when we were able to kind of slowly get into the swing of things where, the boys would go to grandma and, we, had our corners in the house, and, like I said, like he said, I understood sometimes I'll be loud, pass him a headphone or something like that. I think we just started to appreciate each other's space and time together, and even away. That's to say, like, sometimes, you know, he may decide that he wants to take a walk, you know, and that's fine. That's what he would do to kind of get away from me. And maybe I would decide that, you know, maybe I want to go shopping or go buy something, or, you know, those kind of things. So we still found ways to kind of, you know, have that safe time away from each other. But, you know, in all honesty, like, I think we genuinely appreciate each other's company. Like, I can't honestly see myself going back to working in an office space. Does that make sense? Yeah, like, for what? Why? Like, do you understand? Like,
Sure. So one good thing that is good is she is quote and unquote an essential worker. She's a lawyer, by the way, and she goes to work pretty much every day, like every other day, right? So, and we don't have any children yet, so it's just me at home, and I work from home, right? So basically, I had all the space. You understand? But also, the kind of work she had allows her to work from home on some days. If she chooses, she can decide to go to work or decide to work from home. So it also gives us time to spend together. You understand? So there was very, very good balance. We really had no tensions. There was very good balance. Well, there was, okay, getting into marriage. Okay, this is your area, that's my area, that kind of thing. And, okay, using the same bathroom together, that kind of thing. All those are realities that we had to get used to. But from a COVID perspective, we really didn't struggle, to be very honest. It went very smoothly.
I think I agree with my husband for the most part. I think that during COVID, it was actually us. We became husband and wife during COVID, right? So there's no, I guess we had nothing to compare it to. This is all we knew, right? It definitely, getting married, we've combined, and it's like we're like together way more, right? But we each have our own space, and I think just in life, and I don't know if that's going to be continuous or how we're going to work it out later, but I think right now, like you said, I go to work, he has his space, he has his business, he still travels for business, I still travel for business, so I think we have a safe distance and it's working out.
So I don't know. Do you want me to start?
Ladies first, though.
Right. Okay.
You know.
So I think that COVID really did showcase a lot of things, especially for couples. You know, that didn't spend a lot of time together, and then all of a sudden it's like you guys are kind of butting heads like in the same space. For us. I think initially started with like, oh my God, I have to see you every minute. And it went from that to what can we do with, you know, the space that we have right now. So we had, and I know he's a medical person, so he has to go to work a lot. So it wasn't as bad, I would say. But initially, he had to like work from home for a while. And so we had to like, you know, do like a gradation of the house space where downstairs he was downstairs and I was upstairs. And the next thing, you know, once it was like, okay, we figured out internet, where you would be and stuff like that. The next thing is we wanted to start working on spending a little bit more time with each other, because that was one thing I was complaining in our marriage. I was like, babe, you're always gone, you're always gone. So I was like, this is a very great time for us to do that. And so we started doing a lot more games, a lot more just watching movies. We caught up on a lot of Netflix, you know, series and all of that. He knows how to pick them movies. I don't know how he's able to do that, but he's constantly like, this is a new one. It's like, okay. And, you know, I make time, even though work was a lot more stressful this time around. But I try to make, you know, the time to be part of, you know, those movies that he got. And so we watched together. At least that's my take.
Well, she said it all. The moment that COVID happened, there were a lot of decisions that has to be made, not just only for between ourselves, the children were also involved. So talking about space is not only about my space, her space, the children also need space. So everybody in the home needs what? Space. And it's not like you don't want to talk to each other. For me personally, looking at space, I was looking at it from the essence. I do a lot of meetings daily. I do clinical and administrative work. So you still have to find a place that is very, very quiet. And then the children has to find a place that also was very, very quiet. She does a lot of meetings too. So the whole house turned into space. And then sometimes when you're at home, you're also thinking about you are making noise. The children will ask you, Daddy, can I have my own space? So there's a lot of stuff that came in, but we worked it together and we found a level ground for not just us, but for the children too.
No, great analysis there from our panelists, Brother Anas and Brother JG. A couple of things people have said here. We have a few questions. We'll take those questions in the final minutes of our program. Please forgive us. We're pushing a little bit for time. But a couple of things. So many great things. Someone mentioned here about the early sermon during the pandemic that talked about mending our nets. It was as though God gave our pastor the revelation. I mean, if you do remember that, if you do not, the YouTube page or the YouTube channel, we can search for it and find it. I'm sure it will be still of great use or value to some of us right now. And also, space is everything. Someone said, we're together 24/7. The pandemic made us appreciate the times we were apart because it felt like we were just bumping heads. Always in my way. Now we are groovy. You see, so many people made good use of this pandemic. So many good couples did. Some couples did not, but such is life. We'll go to question 2 quickly because we're running out of time. Question 2 quickly.
Strength.
Talk about strengths is all about planning. And let's just be frank about it. We looked at for example, myself, I used to leave home very, very early. There was normally our family prayer time used to be at night. So we have to shift a lot of stuff. Now the road was so free, I don't have to deal with the traffic. So the constraint wasn't all that a lot for us because we talked about it. And not just that we discussed about it between us, the children was also part of the discussion. In fact, their own was more. We put them into more consideration, because both of us, we can work our schedules out. But the constraint, it wasn't much of a hassle like a lot of people hearing from what people said that they went through, that we went through. It's just because there was a lot of communication between my wife and I, and also the children and both of us.
I'll say the initial constraints were just when you're in your office space at work, you don't get easily interrupted, right? So there's like all those, Mommy, my internet is not working, or stuff like that, or Daddy can't help me, he's in a meeting. He told me not to bother him. It's like, okay, am I the one that needs to be bothered? So those were the initial constraints that we dealt with. But we try to help, just as he said, we included the children every time, and we try to help them come up with a way to troubleshoot stuff themselves. Because Mommy might be in a kind of a meeting that she cannot get out of, or Daddy might be in kind of a meeting that he cannot get out of, or just kind of hit that mute button, So that was some things we faced earlier on, and then once we kind of got a hang of it, it became easier from there on out.
So I just wanted to jump in here real quick before we go into the last set of questions. There's one more question there, but I think this is important here. I think one of the things here is some of the strains might not have been particularly unique here, but the good thing about this couple and some of the responses we heard here, that communications, empower the children, they need to be able to solve problems on their own. This is a great opportunity to do that. And then finally, if you notice, it got easier. Right now it's been a year from doing this, and we all know that our lives are not going to remain entirely the same, but just think about some of the things you can capitalize on at this stage and then get yourselves ready for reopening, not as usual but in a different space. Nothing is really usual anymore. I don't know, some of you are still seeing the screen now, and I wanted us to jump into uh, this is the same kind of question that we asked, and then we talked about the reason why I'm projecting this here is that the question 3 here is not actually as it reads here on the screen. So I'm going to move on and then read it out to us as it should be reading. There was a little glitch here.
Well,
So the response to this question is, COVID-19 has blurred the lines between work of how have we ensured that we don't drift apart as a couple? How have we ensured that we don't drift apart as a couple? And we're going to just jump into the Adebusoye's response real quick. I promise you guys, you're not going to regret this one.
what I normally do is, I try to buy her lunch during working hours. Take time
Yeah,
out.
when he buys lunch, I know what he's trying to say.
Hold it right there. Sister Michelle, I was waiting for this time. You have to tell us, what does he mean? He buys you lunch. She has disappeared. Oh, Sister Michelle, yeah, go ahead. Answer this query. He buys
I
you lunch. What
don't,
does
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Sorry?
I don't understand the question, sir.
He buys you lunch. You know what he? See your face on the screen. It's right there. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Hey. But
So, we just have a nice time, like go out together, maybe short walks, just to keep our eyes off the screen for some time. What else? We can take a break. I mean, just put on the TV and just watch a film,
Yeah, that's
watch a
funny.
movie, or just
Yeah.
put praise and worship and just dance away. We do that all the most of the time.
that is true. That is true. I wasn't expecting him to say that. But I mean, truly though, I think for the longest time, it was very hard for us to recognize that there was a problem when there was an issue, right? So a couple of things. One is, thank God for my husband. He's very, you would think that I'm the one that will talk, but if there's an issue, he's open to say it. Like, hey, we need to spend a little bit more time with each other. Like, what's going on? And, and I really appreciate that about him, because when I'm doing my day-to-day routine of being a mom, being a wife, being a teacher, everything in between, some things just fall by the wayside. And I think, him being able to kind of bring that to my attention allows for me to kind of, pay more closer attention to the things that need to be taken care of in the home. But also, I think, so, this pandemic has created so many different fears in people. And, when it first happened, it was like you didn't want to go outside and breathe air because you feel like you may catch COVID, right? And so, all you wanted to do was just stay in your home, stay in your safe space. But I think slowly, as we started to become a little bit more educated about it and understand how it worked or what was really going on, it kind of allowed us to kind of let our guards down a little bit, which helped for us to kind of be creative on how we spend time with each other, right? So recently we had planned a vacation, and we were like, you know what, forget it, we're going to Puerto Rico or something like that. And we bought the ticket and everything like that, and they were like, wait, I still in pandemico. I mean, let's chill, And then, luckily for us, a family friend was getting married, and they were getting married about, what is it, like a few miles away, like in Annapolis. And of course, we knew that we wouldn't be able to do the drive back and forth, so we did a staycation, right? So we, planned for the kids to go away, and we booked a hotel for before the the occasion, the wedding, during and after. So guess what? We now had our vacation, and it was so refreshing when we came back. We were like, wow. Like, jeez, like we should have been to that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Annapolis is what, 25 miles away, if that. But it made a difference. I mean, at one point in time, you even get to a point where you're like, these kids, man, can you find somewhere to go? But when we came back, we were like, where are our kids? Like, come back, come, because we were refreshed. So I mean, I think as couples, it's very necessary for, if one person doesn't recognize, hopefully another person would, and just try to think of creative ways on how you can, still enjoy each other's time in a safe manner.
Sorry about the whole glitch there. I think that was a bad something happened in the middle of that. I guess I'm back on now. um, so it's okay. Sorry, just wanted to. So we're near the end. We just have one final minute, and the Wokoys are going to wrap us up real quick here. There's just one last question we have, and it's also about the futuristic thinking here. And I think this is a good way to end this piece because we tend to end the panels because we tend to have to look can we change, what can we take moving forward. Um, Before I go ahead and share this last clip, I just wanted us to remember that it is just before it's 9 o'clock because I don't want us to. We're going to spend maybe a 5 or 6 minutes after the hour. Let's prepare ourselves to give. It's also an occasion to give and to move on. But I want to take this last question real quick. And we all know the regular giving mechanisms we have in the church. So let me just take this. Let's take this last final question and then wrap things up. Um,
Well, it's just to, for me personally, it's just to put things to balance. Right now, I look at, are there things I can move online? Are there things I can do in-house? Are there things, so I work all those things. I think just putting much balance physically and also putting much also additional balance spiritually, and not just doing it on your own personal ground, also including them. Including them, I mean including the children, because my wife and I, we do our own prayer, devotional stuff, but also including the children in it.
I would say we probably would have, we planned a trip to go on a boat cruise, and we said, oh, you know what, we can wait. So if someone told me that 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 there was going to be coming, like I would have insisted and said, babe, no, we're going now. Yeah. So that would have been the one thing I was like, I wish we did that.
All right. So that's our last video. I really appreciate us listening through and all we've been able to go through. Uh, Please take advantage of the opportunities now. Like what Sister Das said at the last take there. If we knew, we would have just gone away right away. And Sister Michelle said that she took advantage of staycations, even though something wasn't really planned. If you have the opportunity, just do it. It's really refreshing. When they came back, the same kids, they were wondering, can someone just come and take them away? It became, where are my kids? But I haven't seen you in a while. So it's a good reset, it's a good reboot. But I would want to hand it over to Roshalis real quick. There are one or two questions that came in that are really important, and I want the panelists to just reflect briefly, 30 seconds each, touch upon it, and then let's move on.
Hello, did you hear me, Sister Deji, Brother Natalie? Oh, Brother Deji and Sister Natalie.
We didn't hear the sound. The sound got cut off.
Sorry,
go ahead.
sorry. The question here from the chat is that, do you think you will go back to the way things were pre-lockdown with work and family dynamics?
The question is, do we think we'll go back to pre-COVID work dynamics?
Yes, the way things were pre-lockdown, where everybody was everywhere and we were doing things the way normally we were doing it before.
I personally think the world is never going to go back to the same. I think people have understood. I don't even think it should. I think companies have realized and people have realized how to leverage being at home, right? And not having a storefront, right? So I don't even think it makes sense to try to go back to that. It was kind of, COVID has brought a lot of bad things, but I think that's a great thing that it's brought for companies, individuals, families. Like, that's the time, how we can leverage our time better. About you?
Yeah, I think that I selfishly like it the way it is right now. It's just, no commuting is a big factor. So I think that the fact that you don't have to commute for a good number of people is a great way to leverage time for in general, right? The thing I do miss the fellowship. Like, for example, in church, I do miss that seriously. But apart from that, to be very, very honest, I'm now closer to my wife because of it. We spend a lot of time together, and in general, I do not have any problem with not being at work. I am okay with it. So in general, I like it the way it is.
Brother G, if a couple of other people have the same impressions as you, they're saying, well, it's going to be hard to go back. It's going to have to go back and break the same routine. But I think that's the important point to note here. Things have changed for good. It's good for us to begin to think about our lives, not pre-COVID, but post-COVID differently. Think about how that's going to happen, how that's going to shake out. What kind of negotiations are you going to have with your boss? What kind of jobs are you going to pick up? And like Sister Natalie said, employers are already thinking about how that change is going to be more permanent. So you're not going to be alone thinking about that. There's a last question here, and I'm going to pose that question back to you, the Babanese. There was talk about sudden deaths and a few families here sick, folks passing. How did that kind of affect the romance or the feelings between each other? How did that, what effect did that have on how you appreciated each other? Anyone can talk about that. The walkway is to, whatever impressions you have, and then we have a final question for Sister Bimpe before we go. Go ahead, the Babanese.
I feel like COVID kind of blessed the beginning of our marriage, right? While I was just hearing about people like so tired of their spouse having too much time, like they just want to run, or I just felt like this is like we're forced to be together. So it's almost like it accelerates. Like we have to talk about everything. We see each other all the time. He was like the only person I can talk to sometimes, right? And so I feel like it accelerated. I feel like it almost gave us a little bit of a jump start on marriage. So I think we're loving it.
Yes, there were many advantages. I mean, I must be very frank here that even the cost of the wedding alone.
Yeah, those are real.
I'm gonna charge him that extra.
And then you can, seriously speaking, enjoy the honeymoon. You understand? Because there are less activity. We really benefited from the pandemic, and I will be very quick and honest about, there was this thing that, hey, wait for the pandemic to be over before you get married. And I was almost on that bandwagon, but I thank God that I listened to the people that the other side that says, do it right now and don't let the time pass, because it was a good decision.
Yeah, I think I agree, especially when you were saying really, really, really a couple of times. And I think you really, 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 really agree. The Wokoye, the Wokoye I have a quick question for you to final wrap up. Overall, finances, parenting, relationships, this was a good time. 20 seconds.
Oh,
Yes. You guys are
was it
enjoying
a good?
yourself so much. So I just wanted to button and say, was it a great time, parenting wise, relationship, finances? How would you look back at the 1 year and just sum it up?
Was a splendid time. Like, as I said, I'm always telling Arno, I want to see more of you, and I saw a lot of him. So for me, that was
Mm-mm.
great. But also, I watched my children like grow up.
Yeah.
So I think that was just really, really awesome. I was gonna say actually, when I don't know who you asked the question to, but I want to go back to work because I feel like at home I work more.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be able to like shut down my computer and go home and have fun. Because it's like in the middle, you just, let me check this email. And from email, you're typing, from typing, 2 hours is gone, So that part, I definitely want, when you were asking the question about if you want to go back to the way things were, just in that portion, yes, but the spending time with family and bonding, I don't want to change any of that.
Great response. It's a Bimpe. Last question for you. Same thing about balance. I know you've saving a whole lot of money, and I'm going to come and take a few loans here and there. But what would you say about how do you think it has affected your work-life balance? I know Sada alluded to it, but there's cash in the hair. There's, what decisions is it changing in respect to how you're going to go back? Are you thinking things are going to be a change for the good? Because you said a solid good things here about legacy. I don't want to get into that, but just generally, what would you say about the balance? And then that will be it for the night.
In terms of logistics, and I understand that my experience may not be everyone's experience, because there may also be personality in there. Some people enjoy working from home, and that prefer going back to work, like Stadora. I know one person who's like that. But in general, I think it made me more disciplined. Working from home made me manage my time better. So it helped me in that way. And then I think that's your question, really, right?
Yes.
And then in terms of fun, okay, yeah.
No, okay. Thank you. You kept it brief. I thought you were going to the part 2 of it. But it's okay. It's okay. Are you taking any trips soon? Traveling back now. Now we're traveling.
Traveling, well, I already did. I did a bit of travel in that time. I think generally 2020 was also a year of self-discovery for me, because there's some things you never thought would be in that situation, but when you're in that space, you learn more about yourself and some things that you never thought you would do, and some things that you did. So that was good for me. It helped me to know what I wanted and also what I did not want. So it was good for me in that way. And traveling, yes, but not just travel with purpose in mind.
I like that one. Travel with purpose.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. We'll talk more about that one later on. Rashalis, please. The time has been
awesome.
spent.
Well, I want to say thank you, a very big thank you to all our panelists. I'm sure the audience, Mississippi Chapel, we enjoyed the videos, we enjoyed the banter, we enjoyed the fun. We see the togetherness of our congregation, and we give God the glory for that. I want to apologize also for spending a little bit more than allocated time, but this was so good, we were struggling to even stop the presentation. I'd like to remind our audience also about offerings and tithes and all the various processes or methodologies we have. You can pay by Zelle, by Cash App, by checks and by emails and all that. Please do your needful, and we would like to round up here. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us. We really enjoyed your company. I hope you learned a little bit from what we presented today. Some of the things we could not go into deeply, in due time, we'll take them and delve into them more seriously. Brother Coxey, can we round up with a closing prayer, please?
Yes, please. Yes, please. The final thing we want to do just before we pray is please remember we had a lively chat in the chat function. Go back and look at it, read it through. It's there for posterity. Share the video, like it, watch it again. Everything is recorded. Just watch it again and get blessed as I have surely been all through tonight. Let's just pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be in your presence. We committed it to you at the beginning and you've taken control of every single minute. It's been an awesome time spent. We are grateful for everyone that came out of their way to listen, to discuss, to contribute on the chat, to share their experiences, even the discussants that spent time even before this occasion to reminisce and to ruminate on all that they have learned and experienced in the past year. We thank you that you've kept us safe. We did not lose anyone. We did not, everyone in church, you kept us sound and safe through this pandemic. We are only looking back and reflecting now because we are alive. And we're grateful to you, oh God. We thank you for the opportunity, especially this evening, to even give of our substance to the continuing of your work. It's because of that giving that we can even gather like this and learn from each other and be a fellowship and be a family. We appreciate you for that, oh God. As we go tonight, go with us. We commit ourselves to you. We commit the works of our hands. We commit our relationships. We commit our children. We commit our finances. We commit everything that we are unto you. And we say, Lord, continue to keep it, continue to nurture it, make it bloom and make it grow, and protect it, Father, from the wiles of the enemy. We pray, Father, oh Lord God, that you protect all the giving that's happened this evening, even the giving of our offerings. You bless the hands and the pockets from which these gifts have come through. We say you replenish a hundredfold, oh God. And you rebuke the devourer for our sakes, oh God, in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, O Lord God Jesus. Take all the glory, honor, adoration. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen. Let's share the grace together. Grace of our Lord Jesus Christ,
The love of God and the
and
sweet fellowship of the
the
Holy
Holy
Spirit
Spirit
be
be
with
with
us
us now
and
and
forevermore.
forevermore. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you all
Surely,
so much. God, goodness
God's
and
goodness
mercy
and
shall
mercy shall
follow us
follow us
all
all
the
the
days
days
of our
of our life.
lives, and we
We
shall
shall
dwell
dwell
in the house of the Lord forever and
forever
ever.
and ever. Amen.
Amen. God bless you all so much. Have a good night. See you at the next CompleMEnt loading experience. God bless you.
Thank you very much, everyone.